What's up? What's up? It's time for Done Way Past Funny with your host, G.D. Fenderson. Join us as we take a look back at the early works of seasoned comedians before they were seasoned with this week's guest, the iconic Tommy Chong. It's time to get down and get dope with Done Way Past Funny.
I found a way, I got along really good with adults. And the reason is that when I started playing guitar with the fiddle player,
Right.
I got to hang with the adults,
Right.
And so the adults would treat me like an adult,
right.
And so I had no problem talking to people, talking directly to them. And no matter how old or young you are, But, what defined me, believe it or not, was the dancing.
And see,
is,
that's
you
the
could
second.
not.
I'm sorry, but when you said you were a dancer, I used to be a stripper. So when you said you were a dancer, I was waiting for you to tell me that you were a stripper too. Because I was a stripper, every time somebody says that they were a dancer, I just think that everybody was
Of
a
course,
stripper.
of
But
course.
so it was more like ballroom dancing, or
No, jive.
okay.
It was the Lindy Hop.
Oh, okay, so
The
kind of
Lindy Hop.
like American
That
Bandstand type.
it was a little bit, but more like Soul Train.
Okay, yeah, okay, got you.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
Soul Train.
yeah.
Whatever the black dance was. I remember one time it was a cha cha.
Okay.
Cha, and there was,
The
and
Uncle
before that
Willie.
it was, yeah, there was another song called the Pony,
Right.
where everybody danced around, they jumped around like they're riding horses,
And then there's
you
the
know.
Hucklebuck, I think.
Yeah, and the Hucklebuck, put your left foot in, left foot out, uh, that one. But all the other one was jive. It was Lindy Hop jive, and
Okay.
it was like Showtime kind
Right.
of thing, And I ended up with a black partner, and we used to win contests, and so that really emboldened me, to jump into the culture uh, full force. Then I had to learn it. And like I said, my first wife, was a very traditional Baptist. Both the father and the uncles were Baptist ministers, or
Right.
laymen.
Yeah.
And my first wife, Maxine, she played piano at the church, and she was very, to this day, she's very Jesus oriented, and her mom, who just died, her mom made 100. Willa, she was so sweet. Uh, at the end of her life, she was staying in a home, and I went to visit her one time, and with her son, with the
Right.
drummer. Well, she tortured the shit out of her son, but when she saw me, Tommy, you come to see old Willa. You come to see Willa. Oh, that's so nice. This is
it's
Tommy.
it's funny.
This is this is
My
yeah.
mom was nicer to my friends than she was to me.
Oh yeah.
And my friends would see my mom. My friends would say, "Mama Fenderson, have Mama Fenderson," and I'd say, "Mom," she'd say, "Don't call me mom."
you were you were too close. Yeah.
She told me that I used to scare her because oh well, so I don't want to make this about me, but let's
No,
just
I want to
say,
hear it.
okay, my I was a very smart child, very high
Yeah.
IQ. My mother said I was so smart that I had no common sense. And
Yeah.
so that's what used to scare her, because she was afraid to leave me alone, because she just didn't know what I would do, because a child with common sense wouldn't do those things. But a child with intellect go, can you do that? Is that
Yeah.
possible? So,
Yeah.
and then my mother had said about me that, Glenn, if you ever, well, my mother said, if you ever killed somebody, I know that they would have deserved it, because you would have thought about it and figured out that that was the best thing for them was for you to kill him. And I went, Mom, if I'm ever in trouble, do not testify for me. Stay away because that's not the kind of witness you need. No, no, don't. It's like so my mother thought I was so analytical that if I did something really bad, it's because I had a good reason to do it. So my mom, yeah. But
Did you have siblings?
I am the youngest of a litter of four.
Okay.
And I say litter because of what my dad used to call my mom when they had fights. So he used to call her Old Yeller. My mother was very light skinned. Uh, she was my mother. Matter of fact, my mother could pass for white quite often.
What?
So,
Oh yeah. Oh
but
yeah.
I'm the youngest.
Now, did she straighten her hair like the old ladies used to do?
Yes, and she also had wigs.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
because she was straightening her hair, she also had wigs. And as a matter of fact, my mom. Do you remember the movie Cat on a Hot Tin Roof?
Sure.
My mom in her prime looked like Elizabeth Taylor in Cat on a
Woo!
Hot Tin Roof, but with
Wow.
but with my mother was like a 36 double G.
Okay.
So she was like Elizabeth Taylor with tits, big
Yeah. Yeah.
bosom. And so a lot of times, so my mom was, it's really rough being the kid in the neighborhood that who has the hot mom that the other kids are whacking off
Oh
to.
yeah. You
Yeah,
played the
and
mamas.
yeah,
Yeah.
I don't, yeah. It's like, don't tell me what you're doing don't tell me you think like that. No, she's my mother. Don't tell me. I don't want to know.
Yeah. 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 Let's not talk. Let's not go there. Yeah.
Yeah. And,
Yeah.
and
I got that. Well, with my wife,
okay.
she's so young and gorgeous looking now. I gotta just excuse myself from the conversation. Because
Now,
people say to me, when I talk about religion and spiritualism, they say, and they ask me, about God. I say, oh yeah, there is a God,
right.
and and they say, how do you know that? I tell them, have you seen my wife? That not only there is a God, but he really likes me.
Now, okay, well, I'm a former minister. I was a minister years and years ago before I stopped being one. Now,
Yeah.
your father's Chinese. So was he Christian or was he Buddhist? Or I'm sorry, there were other options. I'm sorry, I don't not that those are the only two options he could have been, but I was just wondering
Yeah,
about
no, I
his.
understand it. He was more or less. He was a gambler.
Okay.
Yeah, so that explains everything.
Okay.
That explains why we were poor most of our life, and that explains. My dad had a beautiful personality. He was short, but like I said, he was tough as nails. Him and his brother, the older brother. His brother was a university professor.
Okay.
He taught, but he also taught gymnastics and diving. And his older brother, I was named after his older brother Tommy. In fact,
Okay.
my mother really adopted my dad's family. Because my mother was almost an orphan. Her mother committed suicide when she was like grade 3. She was quite young. And my mother was raised like in a domestic household. Because she was 20% native.
Right.
And so when she met my dad, and my neither my mom or my dad, we never knew anything about their personal life,
Right.
anything at all. Our lives. There was three of us: my brother, older brother, and a younger sister, and our lives were consumed everything. But then when my mother died, I went to the house, and my dad was. Everybody was like, it was a get together, and but my dad looked so sad, and so I said, "Come on, let's go for a ride." So we went for a ride, and my dad was a truck driver, so he'd like to drive. And so I asked my dad, I said, "How did you meet Mom?" Because we never knew. We
Right.
never knew that.
Yeah.
And so he told us, that back in the day, people would go Sunday. They would go to the park and
Right.
stroll in the park.
Right.
And all the girls, Ukrainian workers and that, they all hung together. My mother was one of them.
Right.
She hung with the Ukrainian house workers. And my dad was one of the young Chinese guys, went to school and, household the game, whatever you could do. And so they would walk around the park and then kind of walk by the Chinese guys, and the Chinese guys would pick out what the one they like,
Okay.
and my dad, he zeroed in on my mom, and next thing you know, uh, she's pregnant with my older brother.
Now, how did she
and
get pregnant? I don't understand. They were just walking. How did she get pregnant?
yeah. Apparently, there's some kind of magic that happens in between there
Oh, okay. So I just thought
at
it was like a
night.
Canadian thing. It's like in
Yeah,
Canada, if you're walking, you
at
get
night.
pregnant.
Yeah. Yeah. But my dad never told me this before, And when my mom died, my dad did something kind of special, He couldn't understand why she wasn't with him,
Right.
and so he was a truck driver. So we were in Vancouver, and she died on Vancouver Island. And my dad got in his car and he drove all the way to Calgary,
Okay.
and he started looking for her in Calgary,
Wow.
because that's where the after he got out of the war, that's where we grew up.
Right.
It was in Calgary, and so he just drove back there, and he couldn't get it that she was not there. She'd been there his whole life.
Right.
And now she wasn't there, and it took him a while, and then he yeah, he was fine. He missed her terribly, and they used to natter at each other, quietly. But oh, what are you doing? Oh, that's so stupid. What are you doing
Yeah.
that for? They just natter back and forth. But they were together forever, and then when we did the documentary, my brother, he collected a lot of their correspondence and their early stuff. He became the keeper of the family uh, heirlooms, and so then we got a little taste of it. But my dad was very secretive. He was a truck driver, and
Yeah.
like I said, gambler, and he just kept to himself, hardly spoke.
Now, did your dad think
And
your comedy was funny?
yeah, but he wasn't a fan. He wasn't a big fan. The only thing he said to me, he said, "Son, you talk pretty rough up there."
Now, could you make him laugh, even if he? I mean, could you make him laugh, even though?
Oh, yeah, yeah. But at he used to imitate Jackie Gleason, you
Okay.
know, the honeymooners.
Yeah. Pow,
That
zoom to the
was,
moon,
yeah,
Alice.
yeah.
Yeah.
To the Alice, to the moon, Alice.
Yeah.
He could imitate. My dad he was a fun lover. He loved white guys, or his friends. No Chinese,
Oh,
they're all Italians, or other gamblers, or
right.
you know
Now,
hustlers.
something just
But he,
occurred to me when I was just talking. You just talking when you was talking about your dad liking Jackie Gleason. There are a lot of cartoon characters that are based on iconic actors and stuff. Like Fred Flintstone and Barney was based on the
Jackie Gleason.
Honeymooners, right? Jackie Gleason.
Yeah.
Then there's the big dumb guy and the small smart guy or a small mean guy, and that was like of Mice and Men,
Oh,
Lenny, and
right,
yeah.
Lenny.
So right,
They even
so
they even called him Lenny.
right. So there are all these characters, and I'm wondering because think about Cheech and Chong from those movies. I'm pretty sure there's probably some little cartoon characters that are almost ripoffs of those. You know what I'm saying? I'm
Well, there is Mario.
oh okay.
They offered Cheech that gig, and
Wow.
Cheech turned him down.
Wow. Well, you mind me? Do you know why he turned it down?
He had no well, Cheech turns everything down. That's his way.
Now,
You
does he
know,
turn it down at first and give in, or he just turns it down and it's like, no?
well, he turns it down because he's not sure, and so he wants to be talked into it.
Oh,
You know,
okay.
and if they want him bad enough, they'll talk him into it.
Oh,
You
okay.
know, that's just the way he is. But yeah, it was that character. My character, I don't see my character. Well, there's a few that were around, but but no, that Mario was for Cheech for sure. Me, you know, I kind of copied the Smothers Brothers. You know,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
the big one, the big Tom
Okay.
Smothers.
Is it the
Uh,
name? Is it so that you wouldn't have to change names? No, I'm just teasing.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I never even thought of that, but but the way Mom liked you better than me, that
Right.
kind of thing, and he would revert back to being a kid. And Cheech and I, when we did Corsican Brothers,
Right.
we had fun playing little kids. In fact, that was most of the movie was us
Yeah.
playing little kids, and was a lot of fun. We really enjoyed that part. Yeah, yeah,
It,
that.
I'll say the when Big Bamboo first came out, I think I was in the seventh grade, and we had a substitute teacher who came to our class, and he
Oh
didn't have a
no.
lesson plan. And so he
Uh,
said to us, he goes, "Okay, guys, I don't know what your lesson plan is, but he goes, I don't have a lesson plan. So if you guys will all swear to never tell anybody what we did here today, I'm going to play a Cheech and Chong album for you." And and we were kids, so no other. So in our class, we listened to the whole album,
yeah,
and none of my friends knew anything about you guys, nothing.
yeah,
And I was something of a mimic, and so I would go out and I would perform your material for my friends so that
sure.
they could learn about you. I was like, no, it's hilarious, and sometimes they'd be like, I don't get it. Well, she's a nun, but she's like, quiet, quiet. And so, but and the favorite bit was always about the snow. Don't eat the yellow snow. Oh no, the dog shit is that good
Oh
thing we
yeah,
didn't
yeah,
step in.
yeah,
Must be dog shit. Good thing we didn't
yeah,
step in it.
yeah,
And that was their favorite. But
yeah.
but I was in seventh grade when I heard that album, and I used to go out and imitate you guys, your material. No, to all my
Well,
friends.
you know what was funny? My daughter, who was probably the same grade as you were in, maybe a little higher, she was the one that told me that joke. She
About
told
the
me the
dog shit.
joke about the dog shit. She told me that joke, and I told Cheech, and Cheech said, "Let's do it." We put it in the album, Jabordnik. Like we played like two schwingies.
Yeah.
But it was my daughter. Yeah, my daughters,
Now is
they
this
kept me
Ray?
young. No, that was Robbie.
Robbie, okay.
Robbie was the younger one. Radon and Robbie. It was Robbie was the younger one. She's the one that's doing the documentary. Her and
Okay.
her guy, they're doing the Cheech and Chong documentary. Yeah, she yeah. A lot of my daughters, yeah, they helped out. My wife too. She's there's a tortured old man. I don't know if you remember that bit, but it was about they're killing the girl tonight, old man.
Oh, okay.
Ah,
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Yes.
yeah. What's his name? Tarantino. When he did Inglorious Bastards,
Yeah.
that movie,
Yeah.
him and the writer, they would play that over and over again. Tortured old man. They're killing the girl tonight, old man. You must sign the papers. I cannot sign the papers. I've broken all my fingers. It's so funny that we got away. Well, we got away with a lot of stuff.
Now, how
You
much
couldn't do it now.
I was about to say that was my next question. You thought you could do it now because you didn't do it out of meanness. You did it out of just because it was funny.
Yeah,
And
and humor.
so how would you? Well, like you said, you couldn't do it now.
No, no, you wouldn't. There's no basis for for anybody to understand that. And anyway, when you start dissecting comedy.
Yeah.
That's not what comedy's for.
Right.
What you want to do is talk about what's going on now.
Right.
People can relate to. See, and that's what we did. I mean, we were so lucky. We had this virgin audience. You
Right.
know, and it just affected everybody because they never we weren't put in any category. It was just Cheech and Chong, and we could have, well, we did it as long as we could do it, until Cheech really grew out of it. I was already mature. I was 10 years older than Cheech.
Right.
And I see the value. Well, like you said earlier, how did you keep from getting typecast?
Right.
Well, I just being me. You do comedy for the time, and if it's not the time, then something else.
Well,
Something else works.
I
Uh,
watched you did
I, I I only did comedy. What's that?
you go ahead. Go ahead. You're saying you only
No,
did
I said
comedy.
I only did comedy because there was it was the only hill I never really conquered.
Okay.
I when Cheech and I were out there, I would try to get on the mic much as I could
Right.
and do as much as I could before the partnership kicked in. And eventually, I got to the point where I was solo act, and doing it. And I had a friend that Artie Zeller. He was a photographer for Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Right.
In fact, Arnold bought all his. Artie was a photographer shooting big guys, the big
Right.
muscle heads. Well, he would come to the gym every day with a new joke for me.
Okay.
And then one day he said, "You've never given me one joke." He says, "I've given you so many jokes." I said, "Yeah, well, I'm a stand-up comedian. I need them." What are you? You're a photographer. You don't need them.
So what was your favorite? Do you have like a favorite joke from back in the day that you, I guess, because I saw I saw something you did at the New York Comedy Club, I guess,
Yeah.
and the routine you did, I just cracked up when you said that you pulled over for a caution light, I think it was. A
Oh,
caution
yeah,
light
yeah,
pulled you
yeah,
over. I thought that was hilarious.
yeah,
Now, but the audience there seems to like you as long as you're getting high or talking about getting high.
yeah.
But you didn't start off with your jokes like that. Your jokes weren't like that in the beginning.
Not at all. No. In
So
fact, when we started, we were doing it was a strip club.
right.
And so we changed the strip club into an improvisational strip club.
Oh, okay.
In other words, we would do funny bits with girls that would strip down and get naked. But and they liked it too. They
Yeah.
loved acting. Everybody loves acting.
Oh yeah.
And oh yeah. And so once we started acting, then it was we just had so much fun. We did, and then when we lost money because we changed the audience from to theater goers that
Right.
counted their change,
Yeah. Yeah.
that kind of thing. So it was good because Cheech and I had to break away from that. We would have still been there,
Oh yeah.
it was so comfortable. But but then Cheech and I, when we decided, when I decided that we were going to make it with the comedy, then I knew we had to come down to LA and go through the whole thing, which we did, and we had a great time, man. I'm so glad I got into comedy, uh, because I sure wasn't going anywhere with the music.
Now you're fortunate enough that you can write as well as do, because some people can write comedy but can't perform it.
Yeah,
And some people are really good performers, but they need writers to give them material because they can't write for crap.
yeah,
But you give them the
yeah,
words and they can make it. They can make it stick. You're fortunate
yeah.
enough to be able to do both.
Yeah, well, I had that training. I had that improvisational theater
Right.
training, and that really, that's what got us Cheech and I both, we both took to it. And then when we started down in the States, when people saw what direction we were heading,
Right.
the pros, like Lenny Bruce's entourage one time, when Cheech and I first went on stage in LA, was at Red Fox's club on La Cienega, and Lenny Bruce's whole entourage was there watching us. And after we did our bit, uh, uh, what's her name? Norma. I forget her last name, but she was the MC.
Okay.
And she says, "Okay, what are you guys called?" And we said, "Cheech and Chong." And she couldn't remember that. And so she called us Geek and Gank. And here they are, two comedians this here for Geek and Gank. And Cheech and I kind of chuckled our way up there. And then we did our bit. And Tony Bascara, who was Lenny Bruce's, he had married Lenny's mother, Sally Marr. So he was technically Lenny's father-in-law.
Okay.
But he was younger than Lenny. and Tony was 18 and said he was 40. And Sally was 40 or 50 and said she was 18, or said she was younger. And they got married. They stayed married. They went on a 1-year honeymoon.
Wow.
Around the world, and then they broke up when they got home because Tony was too young. And Tony was Lenny's ballet, everything for a while. In fact, he was the one that gave Lenny his last shot, that killed him. And so Tony, when he saw us, he didn't go to Cheech. He went right to me. He came over to me. He goes, "You're the closest thing to Lenny that we've ever saw." And that was a compliment,
It is.
And so he kind of stayed our advisor, He was so poor, that he tried to be our manager, but he couldn't afford the gas. He couldn't afford anything. And so eventually at the end of it, when we started doing movies and Nice Dreams, right. I hired him as a writer.
Okay.
And I had him write. He had this idea for a screenplay, and so I had him write that, and I still got it. He died. He died that on the movie set because he was doing all the any penny I'd give him, he'd put in his arm,
Wow. Yeah.
And so he eventually passed away, and it was funny. Even his passing was funny because I get a call from the ambulance driver.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know Tony Bascara? Yes. Okay, well, he's in the ambulance now. Didn't make it. Can you tell me who's responsible for Tony? Hello? Hello? Are you there? Hello? So we had a little chuckle over that. But that was Tony. And so Tony ended up being buried they had a plot. I guess Sally bought a plot for him, and but it was on the hill. Okay. And Jackie Gale was one of the pallbearers, and Jackie was cussing Tony out all the time. Tony, you cocksucker, you have to be buried on the side of a hill. Why couldn't you be on the level?
Well, at least he wasn't a big guy. If he was like 300 or 400 pounds, that would have been. We just had to set him down right here.
Yeah, that what could have been.
We'll come back. We'll finish this tomorrow. I can't make all this today.
Yeah, Tony. And when after he died, they had a little memorial service for him.
Right.
And about 7 or 8 women showed up. he had a thing going with at least 7 or 8, and there. A lot of them were junkies, for the most part. I think all of them were when it comes right down to it, That was good. Okay, man, I got to get out of here now.
Look, I appreciate you doing this because you were only scheduled. I was told you like would do an hour, and we've been talking for just about 2 hours. I appreciate you doing this for me.
It's good, man. Well, you're good at what you do, man.
Uh,
You keep
Thank
it
you,
you keep it down.
thank you. I
Keep going.
appreciate it.
Well, let's do it again.
Okay, we'll give you a couple months to give you some new material. No, just tease. Sure,
Sure.
I'll talk to John, and when we can work it out.
Whenever you feel the need.
And I will fly out when you start your movie. I will fly out to.
Okay. Well,
Uh,
when you hear it, I'll expect to have you pop around the corner.
I will fly out.
Okay,
Will
brother.
John know about it?
The world will know about it.
Oh, okay. All right. Cool.
No problem.
Thank you
Okay,
so
brother.
much.
Take care.
All right, bye now.